As the Sunday Express, their headline, PM promises Brexit bills bonanza. This is looking forward to next week's Queen's speech, and it says that it will slash red tape, boost growth and make the UK thrive. And the Mirror and the Sun on Sunday, both focusing on royal stories. Just William, this is the news that the Cambridges are going to scrap protocol and use first names only on duty. And the Sun on Sunday, a photograph which I don't think Prince Harry will particularly enjoy, but it's about what will happen when they come here for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, and telly crew faces clamp over Jubilee. This is their Netflix documentary they're filming. Will they be allowed to film any of it or not? Well, Fraser Nelson and Gloria De Piero are with me this morning to go through all of these papers. Let's start with the headlines that Labour really would not have wanted to be seeing this Sunday, beergate.
Yes, not just headlines, but leaked documents which challenge Keir Starmer's story that he was working away, had a bite to eat and then went back to work. The Mail on Sunday's got the schedule for there, which shows quite clearly about 90 minutes was set aside for beer and curries. Now, normally this wouldn't matter. I mean, this is hardly the offence of the century. But Keir Starmer's got two problems. One, how his description of the evening is now challenged by these documents, so it looks as if he was being disingenuous. And number two, he has said that Rishi Sunak should resign for that birthday cake affair about 10 minutes to number 10. Now, if that's the bar he sets for a front-bench resignation, then you have to ask, will he be taking his own advice if the police find that he broke the rules as well? And it's strange that, you know, that political careers should be decided in any party for such a relatively trivial affair. But both Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson voted to criminalise this behaviour. Keir Starmer didn't oppose it. He was in favour of lockdown rules as Boris Johnson, hence his difficulty right now.
It's a very tricky position for him now, isn't it?
Well, a leaked document, that sounds really exciting, doesn't it? It's actually an operational note which details, which we all would all get when we were politicians. If you were going elsewhere to visit another part of the country where there was a by-election, that's why there was an operational note for this. So leaked documents does make it sound rather more exciting than your schedule. It's a schedule for your day.
A schedule has got an element of planning.
And that schedule included the Labour leader needing to eat. And I'm not suggesting, I don't know anybody, if anyone is seriously suggesting that we are going to go crazy because the people who were working up there needed to eat. And, you know, even in the Mail on Sunday, when you look at the laws, at the time, lockdown laws allowed staff to meet indoors if doing so was reasonably necessary for work. In my book, eating is reasonably necessary, not just for work to survive. Of course, you've got to eat, you're away from home.
But if anybody else in any other company had gone into with their colleagues to have 90 minutes curry, booked that,
no, it was a by-election. They were away campaigning, of course. Can you imagine if politicians didn't go and campaign?
But people were working right across the country in various ways, and they knew that if they'd met their colleagues for a curry, they would be breaking the law.
Drinking beer.
Where would you eat this curry, given that you are away from home, you do not live in Hartlepool?
In the hotel he was staying at, perhaps?
I think it's questionable whether whether it was possible for him to get food.
No, food was available. They've checked that. The food was available at the hotel.
Wasn't it until 9 o'clock or something?
Yeah, but you can eat.
And they ate later.
Yeah. Look, I'm not. The thing is, he shouldn't have eaten. Of course he should. But the problem is that under the rules that he demanded and he voted for, had anybody else done what he was doing, they would have been at least at risk of breaking the law. And that's the problem. The other problem is not being straight with what actually happened. If he's criticising Boris Johnson for not being straight, now something tells me that if the Met Police do issue more fines, as they might do, they've said they might do after the local elections, then we're not really going to get Keir Starmer going after the Prime Minister in the same way. I'd like to see if any Labour frontbencher would now thinks Rishi Sunak should have resigned for the birthday cake.
They should be much more alarmed, the Labour Party, about things that happened in the North East, not about whether you eat or not, but about some of those election results that happened last Thursday. In that by-election, remember, Labour lost that by-election that we're talking about for the first time. Hartlepool elected a Conservative MP last year. For me, I would be far more concerned with that if I was a Labour MP than whether the Labour leader needed to eat.
There's an article there by John Denham that you've picked out.
OK, so John Denham, former cabinet minister under that last Labour government, God, it seems a long time ago since we can say Labour cabinet ministers. But he makes some really important points here, because I actually think that the election results last Thursday in places without a lot of graduates, in towns, not cities, with working class people, were really alarming. Yes, you can point to Rosendale, Cumbernauld, but in the main, there were seats where the Labour Party went backwards. And as John Denham puts it, Labour has to convince people, in working class English voters who drifted away since that Tony Blair government, that the party stands for people like us. And I don't think that people in those communities near where I used to represent, the surrounding areas to that, they don't think Labour understands them, or worse, or even likes them.
Keir Starmer was talking about a turning point then.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been quite as jubilant. Thankfully, I am not Labour leader, but if it was me that had been responding to that, I would have said, we've done fine in some parts of the country. Great, but we have a lot further to go. And I'm going to find out why, in some of these seats, these working class wards, we went backwards. And that's the challenge for him. If he wants to be Prime Minister, find out why those people don't like you.
And a turning point for the Conservatives as well, not in the way that they would have hoped for. How bad were their losses?
Well, the Sunday Telegraph described it as a disaster in a very critical editorial today. That these were, terrible. To lose the seats that they've lost in London, it's difficult to describe yourself as a one-nation party if you're doing so badly in the capital, pretty badly in Scotland as well. And this was at the worst end of their internal expectations. They're lucky that the debate about the lockdown rules means that Keir Starmer is probably more in danger of losing his job than Boris Johnson is. But had that not been happening, then the Tory party would be looking at the pretty dismal set of election results. Now, Michael Gove here makes a very interesting point in the Sunday Telegraph, saying that they're losing in part because they're not building enough houses. Young people can't get on. When that happens, they don't feel they can vote for the Tories. We need to build more houses, says Michael Gove. Tell that to the so-called Tory blue wall. Now, under serious problems now, because a lot of these Tory constituencies don't want the house building plans that the Tories were trying. So they're really between a rock and a hard place here. And there's a whole bunch of op-eds in the Sunday Telegraph just saying that if the Conservatives want to get back into an election-winning territory, they need to come up with useful policies. Dan Hannan says here, look, the economic policy is pretty bad. And you've also got Damien Green talking about southern discomfort. Now, that's a phrase that Labour used to use to describe its problems in winning elections and becoming a one-nation Tory. Now it's the Tories who, after this election campaign, are wondering how on earth they're going to win back voters who are going to the Lib Dems.
And it is Labour that now needs to discover its northern soul, because at the time of writing about southern discomfort, it was piling up votes in the places that are now Tory seats. So it doesn't have southern discomfort, but it needs to find some northern soul, and it needs to do so quite quickly.
How does Boris Johnson feel about his prospects of leading his party into the next general election now after last week?
Bizarrely, he'll be feeling quite good, because a lot of people said, wait till after the local election results, then we'll come for him, then there'll be a leadership challenge. Well, it's Sunday, there's not a whisper of a leadership challenge. And until the Tories can think of somebody they'd rather have as Prime Minister, be it Liz Truss or Nadhim Zahawi or somebody like that, then he will stay as the default candidate. Right now, the loudest sound, I think, comes from the 3/4 of Tory MPs who will not back him or sack him, who will not say he should stay, nor will they say he should go. They're waiting for something to happen.
Could that change with Sue Gray? We still haven't seen the Sue Gray report.
Yeah, and we're likely to see some movement on that, some more fines, the Sue Gray report, but I'd be surprised if anything is added to our knowledge about what we all know was a complete scandal what went on in number 10 then. I don't think Sue Gray is going to change that. What will have to change is this Tory indecision. They're in this kind of purgatory right now. They're not happy with their Prime Minister, but they can't work out what should happen, and we're looking amazed as Labour is the party which is now taking more flack.
How much difficulty is Keir Starmer in now? Do you think he'll be the next? Will he continue to be the leader for the next year or two?
Yes, I think almost certainly. Although there is some speculation in some of the papers this morning that West Streeting and Rachel Reeves, but I can't tell you if that's substantiated. That they're getting great donations into their coffers. But there is a lot of talent on. In that shadow cabinet. What I would say about Keir Starmer is those people that know him much better than me, we were colleagues, but we sort of didn't really speak that much because we were on different sides of the Brexit debate, is people say he really, really wants to be Prime Minister. So let's see, he will have seen those results and he needs to change the story because the current story isn't working for him and is not going to put him in number 10.
Northern Ireland, we must talk about that because a really historic result yesterday. Does this threaten the future of the United Kingdom?
Well, the Conservatives certainly think that it does. The opening sentence of the Sunday Times' splash story today is that the Sinn Féin, emerging as number one in Northern Ireland, has immediately triggered the government to say to Brussels, we need to renegotiate the protocol because the protocol is tearing apart this country. Now, the protocol, technically, Boris Johnson said, look, we can have these checks, they needn't be burdensome, we can just have little electronic border checks. In reality, these checks have been huge, very politically contentious in Northern Ireland. You're getting people literally marching against the protocol. Trade between Britain and Northern Ireland has gone down by 20%. And you're getting a lot of people thinking that the Brexit deal is undermining the union. You're getting the unionist parties are going through meltdown, partly explains the Sinn Féin resurgence. And we now see Boris Johnson again on a clash with Brussels, saying, look, common sense says we need a new agreement in Northern Ireland, but the EU will give no ground at all. And I think Macron especially is adamant that the Brexit deal will not be reopened and Boris Johnson should lie in the Brexit bed which he made.
Are we going to see anything about it in the Queen's speech, though?
Well, I think in the Queen's speech there'll be a reference, this is what we understand, to protecting the Good Friday Agreement. Now that sounds pretty innocent, but that is Tory code for we will give ourselves powers to unilaterally tear up the Brexit deal to protect what we regard to be a threat to the Union. Now, if they do that, then all bets are off with the future of the Brexit deal. We could see the return to Brexit talks, we could just see the end of the Brexit deal and a trade war. So things could get very nasty very quickly, but the Conservatives are being pretty clear that they will not let the status quo lie and they will, if necessary, tear it up on their own.
I guess growing up, we're not that many miles apart in age, and Sinn Féin to us when we were growing up conjured up some particular images and thoughts of bombs. But I was reading this really nice profile by Rosamund Irwin in the Sunday Times about the Sinn Féin leader, Michelle O'Neill, the first person without a direct IRA past to lead Sinn Féin, and just some words from her that she said last year. Well, she said that she was in favour of the peace process from its inception, and after a bomb was planted in a police officer's car, she said this: these people who are responsible should pack up and leave the stage because there's no going back. We need to work together and build peace.
Gloria Di Piero, Fraser Nelson, thank you both for joining me this morning to review the papers. We can get Darren Bett now to review the weather, which I think is going to be rather nice today, isn't it, Darren?
Yes, it is, Sophie. Thank you very much. We had some